To my notes on two-step equations. So the first one here says write the equation and solve. Hint, how many chips are in the cup? So if we look at this first example, the cup is the variable and the circles are the ones. Okay, so we have one cup plus 6 circles equals 14 circles. So we have to write the equation. So x plus 6 equals 14. So we want to know how many chips are in the cup. So you're probably already thinking you know the answer, and you probably do. But let's show our work. So draw a T. And the opposite of adding 6 would be subtracting 6. 6 minus 6 is 0, so those cancel out. Bring down your variable, which is x, and 14 minus 6 is 8. Now another way to solve this would be to use the picture to help you solve it. So if you cancel out 6 circles on this side, you can cancel out 6 circles on this side, and that would be 1 cup equals 8 as well. So I can show you using the picture, or I can show you using algebra. Okay, number 2. This time I have 2 cups equals 8 chips. And remember, I want to know how much is in 1 cup. So 2x equals 8. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I can divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is a 1 in disguise, so x equals 8 divided by 2 is 4. So x equals 4. There would be 4 in each cup, because 4 and 4 is 8. Now another way to do it is I have 2 cups equals 8. So if I broke these up into 2 groups, so there's one group, and there's my second group, so how many are in each group? 4. Same thing. So those were one-step equations. Now I'm going to look at a two-step equation. So we're going to have to combine what we know about one step. So this time we have 2x plus 6 equals 14. Okay. So what we want to do is think about that first one up here. We want to cancel out the chips first. So we're going to do the opposite of adding 6. So what's the opposite of adding 6? Good. Subtract 6 from both sides. 6 minus 6 equals 0. Bring down your 2x, and 14 minus 6 is 8. So pictorially, it would look like this. Cross out 6 from each side. And now we have 2x equals 8. So the opposite of multiplication is division. We can divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is a 1 in disguise, so x equals 4. So once again, if 2x's equals 8, I can split them up into groups of 4. So I can break them up into 2 groups, which ends up being groups of 4. So 1x equals 4. Okay, so you have to remember, think about when we do these problems, we want to get rid of the chips first and then get rid of the cups. Okay, so let's look at the process first and then look at some examples. So a term is an expression made up of numbers and or variables. Terms can be separated by addition or subtraction symbols. For example, 2x plus 6, this represents 2 terms. You have the 2x and you have the 6 because they're separated by an addition sign. So the steps to solving two-step equations are isolate the term that contains the variable. So meaning we're getting rid of the chips, because we want to isolate it. And then after we isolate the term that contains the variable, then we isolate the variable. So we get the x by itself, or whatever the variable might be. And the golden rule of algebra is what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. And these are called the property of equalities. Remember, if we're adding to both sides or subtracting to both sides is either the addition or subtraction property of equality. If we're multiplying or dividing the same number on both sides, then that's either the multiplication or the division property of equality. Okay, so when we solve these, I'm gonna show you the check on a couple of these. Okay, because they're pretty much all the same. So we're not going to show the check on every single one. So just show the check on the ones, but that doesn't mean we're not going to check the others. Okay, so the first example is 2d plus 7 equals 9. So what I like to do when I solve these is I like to circle the variable and anything in front of the variable. If there's an addition or subtraction sign in front of it, I circle it. And I draw my t. So the opposite of adding 7 is subtracting 7. So we're getting rid of the chips. 7 minus 7 is 0. So the chips are gone from this side. Bring down your two variables or your two cups. 9 minus 7 is 2. So if 2d equals 2, I still don't have d by itself. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Good, division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is a 1 in disguise. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So d equals 1. Now let's draw a little wavy line here and let's show our check underneath. So all we do to check is just take the d out and put a 1. So what does number in front of letter mean? Multiplication. So 2 times 1 plus 7 equals 9. So order of operations says do 2 plus 1 first. 2 times 1 first. What's 2 times 1? 2. Plus 7 equals 9. And what's 2 plus 7? 9. So 9 equals 9. If the left side equals the right side, then that means my answer is 1. Okay, moving on to number 2. Now this one, we are going to check it, but we're not going to show our check. So circle the variable. Draw your t, and we're going to get rid of the chips first. So look at the variable, find the chips. The opposite of adding 5 is subtracting 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. 11 minus 5 is 6, equals 3z. Okay, now we still don't have the variable by itself. The opposite of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 3 divided by 3 is z, so 2 equals z. Or, if you wanted to rewrite it, you could rewrite it as z equals 2. They're the exact same thing. So I can write it 2 equals z, or z equals 2. Now, to check this, I want to make sure that this side right here equals 11. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. So it does, in fact, check. So even though I'm not showing my check, I'm checking it in my head or my calculator, and I'm putting a check mark to show that I actually did check it out. Okay, number 3, circle the variable. Draw your t. And we want to get rid of the chips. The opposite of subtracting 4 is adding 4. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. Okay, what happens to the 4s? Good, they cancel and equal 0. Bring down your variables, so 2s. What's 6 plus 4? 10. And now we still don't have the variable by itself, so what's the opposite of multiplication? Good, division, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is a 1 in disguise, so s equals 10 divided by 2. Good, 5. So circle your answer. And we're not going to show our check for this one because all these checks are just like this one. So 2 times 5 is 10. And 10 minus 4 equals 6. So it does in fact check. So put a check mark showing that we did in fact check it. Okay, moving on to example number 4. We have 8 minus 5b equals negative 7. Now, remember I said circle the variable and what's attached to it. And also if there's a minus or a plus sign in front, circle it. And there is this time. So let's draw our t. And now we want to cancel out 8 chips. So would we add 8 or subtract 8? Good, subtract 8. 8 minus 8 equals 0, so slash them. And you can put your 0 here. Now, when you bring down the 5b, because there's a minus sign in front, that 5b is actually negative 5b. And remember when we looked at integers and we did KCC, okay, we said that you can change this to addition and change the sign of the second number. Since this is 5, it changes to negative 5. So that's why we can see this variable is negative 5b. And if we don't make it negative 5b, then we will never get our answer to check. So now negative 7 minus 8 is negative 15. The opposite of multiplication is what? Division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 5 because we still don't have the variable by itself. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a 1 in disguise. So b equals negative 15 divided by negative 5 is positive 3. Circle our answer, and we're going to show our check for this one because this one's a little bit different than the other ones. So we have 8 minus 5 times 3 equals negative 7. Okay, order of operations says do 5 times 3 first. So 5 times 3 is 15. So we have 8 minus 15 equals negative 7. Okay, we can do KCC because it's subtracting. And remember, when you're adding a negative and a positive, subtract and keep the sign of the most. So this side is negative 7, and this side is also negative 7. So it does, in fact, check. Okay, example number 5 says 1/2 x minus 6 equals 5. Circle the variable and what's attached. Draw your T. Okay, we want to cancel out the chips first. What's the opposite of subtracting 6? Good, adding 6. What happens to the 6's? Slash them. They cancel and equal 0. Bring down your variable, so 1/2 x equals, what's negative 5 plus 6? Good, 1. Now, remember what we said. You can look at this 2 ways. How many halves make a whole? And that's what you would multiply both sides by. Or figure out what the inverse of 1/2 is. And the inverse of 1/2, if I flip it, is 2 over 1. So we know that 2 divided by 1 is 2, so I can multiply both sides by 2. 2 times 1/2 is a 1 in disguise, so x equals 1 times 2. Good, 2. So now let's show the check for this one. We have 1/2 times 2 minus 6 equals negative 5. Okay, order of operations, what's half of 2? 1. So 1 minus 6 equals negative 5. KCC. And the signs are different. So subtract. 6 minus 1 is 5. And keep it negative because I have more negatives. So negative 5 equals negative 5. Okay, that does in fact check. So let's move on to the last example. So once again, circle anything that's attached and draw your T. Okay, now we want to cancel out the 4 chips. So would we add 4 or subtract 4? Good, subtract 4. 4's cancel, give me 0. And bring down your variable. Now this time, there's a negative in front. And remember when we did division equations, when we had the negative in front, we just put it on the bottom number there. So h divided by negative 5 equals, what's 0 minus 4? Good, negative 4. Now, the opposite of division is multiplication. Now, most people say, oh, we multiply both sides by 5. But if we multiply both sides by 5, a positive times a negative is still a negative, and I want to get the positive h by itself. So I have to multiply both sides by negative 5. Now, when I multiply by negative 5, that cancels because what I'm really doing is the inverse. Okay, so that's why those are canceling. So h equals, what's a negative times a negative? Go to positive, so we have positive 20. Now, we're not going to show this check, but what's 20 divided by 5? 4. And what's 4 minus 4? 0. Good. It does, in fact, check. Okay, that concludes our notes on two-step equations. I hope you have a great day.